Welcome to Lyric Lab Poetry. In this video, we are going to make something together. That something is a mini chapbook. There's a very important reason we're doing this exercise that will also, I hope, lead to the creation of a poem or several poems in that mini chapbook. And I'm going to just start by saying that I don't know who it was that said it, but it always comes back to me, this idea that the final poem in a collection of poems is not actually the final poem on the last page at all. It actually is all the poems together and the sort of chronology of that work. That is, in a way, a kind of final poem, that it speaks to not just the poem as just a single thing, but part of this collective, this collection that you are experiencing as a reader. And I've always loved that idea, but actually I would go one step further and say, well, that idea is actually the penultimate poem. I think the final poem in a collection is the collection itself as a physical object. And books are amazing things. We often think about process. I want to be a writer. I want to write poems. I want to be published one day. And when we get to the actual publication itself, we sometimes overlook the creation of that thing as an object, as a piece of art in its own right. I remember as a teenager going to Camden in North London, where all the cool kids hang out, and you'd come out of the station on the right-hand exit and turn immediately right. I think that's Camden High Street. You would walk up the road a short way, and there would be the brow of a hill, I think, where the canals are. And on the right-hand side, there may well still be a bookshop. And I would go in there because they had books by writers like John Fante. Road to Los Angeles, a book that I owned decades ago, and yet isn't it strange that I find myself here now talking about that, reflecting on that, maybe always looking to America from all those decades ago, from my teenage past. And John Fante was published by Black Sparrow Press, and they made beautiful books. And I always remember at the back of the book there would be a few extra pages and then a photograph of the writer and then a short biography. And in different books by the same author, there would be different photographs of that author. They were beautifully made things. You know, the art as an object, as well as that experience you have as a reader, this temporal experience. Here you have this kind of spatial art, the book. And that got me thinking about beautiful books and books by people like Faber, or here in the States, Sarabande. Sarabande have always made amazing books. They are beautiful objects, as well as containing beautiful poetry. And I think in the first couple of pages of a Sarabande book, there's that wonderful embossed kind of thread or ribbon of the Sarabande logo embossed onto the page. Beautiful, beautifully made books. Who wouldn't want to be, I've just dropped a book, excuse me. Who wouldn't want to be published by Sarabande, an amazing publisher, really, that makes beautiful, that really holds true to the idea of not just the process, but the product. They are intertwined with one another, and that's why we're doing this experiment, this exercise that might fail before your very eyes. But anyway, books are amazing and we should celebrate that. And one way you can do that is to take a simple piece of standard print paper here, or actually any piece of paper this size, 8.5 inches by 11, and maybe it's some random piece of paper you have lying around. The more random, the better. So if someone else selects that for you, that would be a better idea, I think. It could be something pinned to a notice board. If, for example, I don't know, it's advertising some concert, the date has already passed, therefore no one's going to miss it. You can liberate that piece of paper, and we're going to make a chapbook from it. So you're going to take your piece of paper and you're going to fold it in half, like this, vertically. I'm going to do a very bad job of that right now. Excuse me. There you are, and then you're going to open it up and you are going to fold it in half again, this time horizontally. There you are. So now if you open it up, you should have these 4 sections. You're now going to turn it horizontally like this, and you're going to fold each edge here into the middle like this, as I'm doing now. and the other edge is going to be folded in as well. This could be where it goes horribly wrong. So you have now your piece of paper that opens into 8 little rectangles. What you do next is you take the piece of paper and you make a cut from the center point out to this part here and then down here. So why don't I do that right now? In fact, I'm going to just tear along that line to that center. Now I have my piece of paper here with a hole in the middle, and I'm going to take the 2 center parts and pull them apart from each other and then fold them down to create a little booklet like this that has, including what would be the cover here, and then inside 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, and then with the cover and back cover there's 8 pages in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I took the inspiration from this from a couple of little books here that I've got. The first one is a poetry zine from poets at the Los Angeles Public Library. The group I facilitated kind of grew into its own thing, its own private group, and they created a poetry zine with some fantastic poems in it, and it's got a QR code there on the back cover. I wonder if I hold that up whether you'll be able to see that QR code, and if you click on that you can actually, if it's coming into focus or not, that QR code will lead you to the site where you can buy a copy of this great little zine. Includes cover illustration by Peter Landau, the LA-based artist, and there's also another little chapbook here that a friend gave me who's part of this poetry group, and it's called Linda Knitter Writes. It's a great little kind of story with illustration, and by the Sisters Grimmer. I suppose you've got the Brothers Grimm, and here you've got the Sisters Grimmer, and it's about Linda Knitter Wright, who is obsessed with knitting, and it's a great little story with illustration here throughout. And the very cool thing about this chapbook is that you can open it up and it becomes a knitting pattern as well, showing you how to knit. So it's a very creative kind of endeavor, and it puts me in mind of the beginnings of the modernist movement, during which poets like Gertrude Stein published their own poetry, were self-published, and then eventually small presses grew into larger presses, and poetry, modern poetry, cemented itself, or found its footing, if you like. But it starts with this, the production of chapbooks and pamphlets, and I think everyone should experience actually making their own mini chapbook. So here is your poetry chapbook, mini chapbook with 8 pages, including the front and back cover, 6 pages internally. So what are we going to fill it with? Well, we're going to illustrate it like this one here that I showed you earlier, or like the poetry zine I mentioned, which has lots of poems in it on the page, illustrated, and just have fun with it. But think about a theme that you might be able to explore. Remember, brevity is key, because you've got, a finite amount of space in this mini chapbook. Maybe choose a short narrative story. I think these are great things for kids. If you remember when you were a kid, you remember that kind of paper folding game you'd play where you'd end up with a piece of paper and you would have the word of different colors, and you would pick one of the colors and then spell it out and open a corner, and it would lead you to some, I don't know, fortune cookie-esque statement at the end, or tell you something funny like a joke. These things aren't designed specifically for children, but it does put me in mind of maybe trying to create a mini chapbook that could explore a theme in a short and concise way. So why don't you think about what that might be? Use other short poems maybe as an inspiration or as a way into that exercise. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll be back soon with more poetry content.